Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Monday Morning Tennis Rant, and it's actually Monday afternoon. It's a late release today because I wanted the Rafa match to finish. But before I talk about Rafa, I want to rant about something that's been on my mind this clay court season, and it's the fact that I can't see the ball when I'm watching tennis, okay? During the tournament in Monte Carlo, I was losing the ball during the rallies. Maybe my vision is going bad, I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you are experiencing the same thing. But on really sunny days where the bright sun was coming straight down, that camera angle was so high in Monte Carlo, I couldn't see the ball that good. And I'm having the same problem at some of the matches in Madrid, especially when there's shadow on the court. It's hard to follow the ball. I will say that this is not as big of an issue when it's more overcast or later in the day. I can see the ball just fine, which brings me back to a video that I made last year where I talk about the fact that YouTubers do a lot of things better than professional tennis broadcasters. And I know this is kind of an insane statement, but hear me out. See, what YouTubers do, they will stick a camera in the back fence, or they'll put a tripod right in front of the back fence, and now we have an eye-level view of the game. And this is my preferred way of watching tennis. When I get my hands on a clip that features elite level players with this eye level view, I can see the power much better. I can see the spins. I can see the technique in their strokes. And it's my preferred way of watching tennis. Now, the disadvantage of this viewing angle is the fact that you can't really see the player on the other side that well. You can see the player that's close to the camera really well. So when you raise the camera angle, now you got a better view of both players. So I understand that this is going to be not something that professional TV broadcasters are going to adapt, but my wish would be that they lower that camera a little bit, because at some of these tournaments it's simply too high and it's simply too difficult to follow the ball. Let's transition to Rafa. And it's unbelievable that he's able to win 3 matches in a row at a Masters Series tournament. He's finding his confidence. He's slowly getting better. You can see based on his emotions how much this means for him. And as a Rafa fan, I am so blessed that I get to see him possibly one final time at each one of these big clay court tournaments. Does he have a chance to go deep in this one? I really don't know, because the more he plays, the more confidence he will gain. I don't know what his physical limitations are, but it's true that he's not moving like he used to. I can still detect some problems when he moves to his backhand side, when he tries to get around his backhand to hit a forehand. It doesn't look as quick as it used to. Also, his strokes don't look as powerful as they used to. Yes, he can rip a winner here and there, but in those normal rallies where he's just hitting heavy spin forehands, I don't feel like he's doing as much damage as he used to. Now, this could be a confidence thing, and Rafa is going to start hitting harder and harder the more he trusts his strokes. This could very much be true. So in the next round, Rafa plays Lehečka, who's a really good player. This is going to be a tough match. So yesterday, I watched Challengers, the tennis movie that's been plugged a lot, even on the tennis channel. And I'm sure you saw Zendaya, who's the main character in this movie. She was at the tournament in Indian Wells, and she was at the tournament in Monte Carlo promoting this movie. Now, I'm not going to give you a review here. You can watch that somewhere else. But I want to talk about tennis movies in general. And I want to start off by saying that a lot of tennis fans have complaints about tennis movies. Why? Because the actors are, of course, recreational level players, often beginners, and they're portraying professional players. And when you see the technique, it makes the whole movie less believable, and we don't like seeing it. However, I will say that starting with King Richard, which I reviewed, you can check out that review in a separate video, the use of stunt doubles has gotten better and better. And King Richard was good. And I'm going to say that Challengers did a good job using stunt doubles. It wasn't perfect, because in some of the close-up shots, you still saw some weird techniques. For example, one of the actors was doing a Jay Berger type serve, where it was starting in the back scratch position, so to speak. I'm not sure why. And then, of course, you saw Zendaya, who was coaching one of the other players, feeding balls like a beginner, and she's supposed to be a professional tennis player. So still, it's difficult for actors to portray tennis players because we as tennis fans see stuff like this and we don't like it. But I will say that this movie is good for tennis for several reasons. Number one, the fact that Hollywood is using tennis for such a big blockbuster is a good thing. People are talking about tennis. I actually watched a couple of reviews where these guys were saying that they weren't really into tennis, but after watching this movie, they want to give it a try. So this is great for tennis. But also, what I find super annoying is that generally, tennis has always been portrayed as this elite sport, as this prissy sport that's only for the rich. And I have made so many videos where I talk about that. Tennis doesn't have to be an elite sport. I made a video about using a $14 racket that I bought at Walmart. I made a video where I bought shoes from Nike that are tennis shoes for 50 bucks. I made a video where I drove around and I showed public tennis courts that cost absolutely nothing to play on. I also made a video about tennis balls that you can buy from Walmart very cheaply. So, tennis does not have to be an elite sport. You can play tennis without spending a lot of money. Now, a lot of you guys always bring up lessons. Yes, tennis lessons from a qualified instructor are going to be very expensive. But you know what's not expensive? It's the tens of thousands of free tennis lessons that you can watch on YouTube. And over the last 5 years, I cannot tell you how many emails and DMs I get from players that have learned to play tennis by watching my YouTube videos for nothing, $0. So I know that tennis is an expensive sport. If you play juniors, if you hire coaches, if you're traveling, if you have to buy a lot of tennis equipment, and tennis becomes unbelievably expensive if you want to pursue a professional career. There's no argument about that. But I'm saying that the general portrayal of tennis in the past in Hollywood was one of an elite sport, and I'm glad to say that in Challengers, this was not the case. They made a true representation of tennis where they showed one guy who was on the top of the tennis world, a multiple Grand Slam champion, and they showed another guy who was ranked 270 in the world, who was sleeping in his car and didn't have any money for food. So they showed different parts of tennis and they portrayed it correctly. Now, Jonas from Tennis Nerd would be proud because this movie was revolving around the Challenger tournament, but there were flashbacks to 10 or 11 years ago, and they got these little nuances right, even in equipment. I saw Zendaya using an N-Code Wilson racket. So they were paying attention to detail, and I thought they got the tennis part in this movie right. So this is not a movie review. This is not a movie recommendation. You gotta do your own research there, whether you're gonna like this movie or not. But overall, I do think that this movie is good for tennis, because tennis being featured in a blockbuster movie like this is ultimately gonna bring more people into the game, and that's a positive thing.